and then, nice and warm. And then mindfully breathe in, breathe out. Because you will find if you put a teddy bear in your lap when you're meditating, your mind is very soft, you're very happy, and it's easier to meditate doing teddy bear meditation. And it's also nice and warm as well. So if ever you want to borrow the teddy bears, please, they're up there, the big one, the small one, whichever you want. And remember, after the teddy bear has finished, 1, 2, 3, 3 bows to the Buddha. Okay, very good. Now sometimes you think that might be funny, but it actually does work. It allows you to become more peaceful, more focused, and your mind doesn't wander away simply because you have some happiness. The happiness is an important part of success in meditation. So much so that the Buddha would often say, Sukhino chitang samadhiyati. From happiness, the mind becomes still. Not from misery, not from anger, not from being depressed, but from happiness, your mind becomes still. So we cultivate some happiness in our day, in our meditation, and you find it's so easy then to make the mind still. The purpose of meditation is stillness, making the mind and the body so still that nothing is moving. Just like the stillness of the forest. I got up early this morning and no one was moving. You're all in bed. It was so quiet. So, when things are very still, they're very, very beautiful. Because when the world is still, you too stop and become perfectly still. When nothing is moving, nothing is wanted, nothing is missing, you are perfectly at peace, still at last. The purpose of meditation is trying to generate stillness. So how do we generate stillness? First of all, we have to be aware of what stops stillness happening. The reason why you don't become still is because you are always doing things, always thinking and planning and going and coming, never stopping. You may remember the story of the Buddha and the serial killer Angulimala. Now, first of all, some people say, oh, I'm not a monk, I'm not a nun, I'm only a new Buddhist. Can I become fully enlightened? Angulimala became fully enlightened, and he was a serial killer. If a serial killer can become enlightened, surely you can. Unless, have we any serial killers here? Please let us know quick. There are no serial killers comes to a retreat. So if a serial killer can become enlightened, surely you can. And how did the serial killer Angulimala become enlightened? He was running after the Buddha as fast as he could. No matter how fast he ran after the Buddha, he could not catch the Buddha. And he shouted out to the Buddha, "Stop, stop!" And the Buddha said, "I have stopped. You stop." And Angulimala stopped. And that was the cause of his enlightenment. Stop. There's an old story from the tradition over in Thailand in Wat Ba Pong, that when Ajahn was still alive, when he gave talks, sometimes he gave talks for hours, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, all night he would sometimes talk. And I can say this because I was his disciple, I respect him. Some of the talks were rubbish. They were so boring. But every now and again he'd say something really interesting, and it was worth waiting 2 or 3 hours to get 1 or 2 very, very beautiful statements of the Dhamma. But a lot of the time it was really boring. And in one night, Ajahn Chah was giving a long talk, started just after the evening chanting, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and he was still talking with no sign he was going to stop. And now this is Asia. You can't walk out, in the middle of your teacher's talk. Even though you're dying to go to the toilet, you have to restrain yourself. It's called renunciation. You can't do anything. You've got to sit there and suffer. But there was a little novice, maybe about 8, 9 or 10 years of age. These young people who get ordained as monks because, their parents die or they cannot afford to look after another child, so they send them to monastery. And so there was one of these small little novices, and he was getting so tired. It's all right for these big grown-up monks to stay up 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, but I'm a little fellow. I need to go to bed. This is unfair. And he kept on thinking, when is Ajahn Chah going to stop? When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? He kept thinking like this for over half an hour or an hour. When is he going to stop? And then that little novice got insight. And insight is seeing things in a slightly different way. And when you see things in a slightly different way, it changes everything. He thought, not when Ajahn Chah is going to stop, when am I going to stop? And the little novice stopped. And when he opened his eyes, it was many hours later. The hall was empty. They'd done the ringing of the gongs, they'd chanted, they'd bowed, took up their stuff and left. He hadn't heard anything of that. And he'd missed his arms round in the morning. And was he unhappy that he missed his sleep and his breakfast? No way. The first time he got into a deep, blissful meditation. The first time he got into the jhana. Why? Because he stopped. So, close your eyes. Stop. Did it work? One day it will. But you can understand why that happened. He stopped and he was very still and peaceful, and that was the cause for getting into deep meditation. It also shows you what deep meditation is. When you stop, everything starts to become very still and peaceful. When you do something, that is what causes the mind to be agitated. So, when you understand that meditation is all about stillness, the next thing is, how can we become still? Number one, keep this still. If you can keep this still, it's much easier to keep this still, the head still. The mind starts talking and the head starts thinking. So if any of you have any trouble not talking during this retreat, please ask Burr or Dania. We do have masking tape. Yeah, put it around. We put a little hole in there for a straw so you can have your porridge in the morning. And even a noodle, you can sort of suck it in through the hole, one at a time. But try and keep it quiet. Because if you can stop speaking, you're actually calming your mind down as well. You're not thinking so much. But that is one of the hardest things for a person to stop thinking. So now I give you an exercise, how to stop thinking. When you meditate, you close your eyes, you make your body nice and comfortable, and for the first minute, you recite a mantra to yourself. A mantra is just a group of words you recite over and over and over to yourself. Now, because you're all Theravadins mostly, some Mahayanas, but I'm going to give you the Tibetan mantra, the Om Mani Padme Hum. Do you know what that means? Good, because if you knew what it meant, you start thinking about it. It's much better to give you something you don't understand. So, Om Mani Padme Hum, you chant that to yourself. Not with your mouth, but with your mind. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, for 1 minute. You don't have to get your watch out, just roughly about a minute. And after 1 minute, because you're chanting that, that blocks all the thoughts out. And then for the next 2 minutes, you put a little space between the words. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Just a little space at first for 2 minutes. If a thought comes up in that space, you have to close it up. But after 2 minutes, if a thought doesn't come up in those spaces, lengthen the space. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani. And gradually lengthen the space. Not too fast. Lengthen the space. If a thought comes up, close the space up. And that way, not only do you block out the thoughts, but you extend the silence until, after many minutes, Om Mani Padme. You're mostly silent. And the nice thing with silence, it feels good. It is beautiful. You can rest. It's profound. It's beautiful. And you enjoy it once you get used to it. But if a thought comes up, close it up. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme. But do that slowly until you can get used to a silent mind, which is still, it's not thinking. And when you can do that, many benefits happen. Number one, you become more mindful. How can you be mindful when you're busy thinking? Sometimes people are thinking. They're not really quite sure if they're brushing their teeth or not. Sometimes people are so unmindful because they're tired. They can't find this little string which goes around their neck because they were already wearing it last night. This little string? Daniel puts on that. This little string over here, I couldn't find it last night. That's why I clipped the thing over to here. It was actually underneath here. Even I make mistakes. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. Even the first time I wore these glasses. These are only reading glasses. I don't need them to see normally, but I usually keep them on my nose because at least I know where they are. Because once on a Friday, I left the monastery going to town, and I remembered I forgot my reading glasses. So I turned around, we've got to go back. I've got to get my reading glasses to do any work in the city centre in Nolamara. And my driver looked at me and said, look on your nose. I'm sure that's happened to you as well. You're looking for your glasses and they're on your nose. So at least now I don't take them off my nose except when I'm in the shower and go to sleep. That's why my dreams are not clear these days, because I don't wear my glasses. And that way, at least I know where they are. But what mindfulness is, if you're thinking a lot, number one, it tires your brain. Your brain is so tired. You've used it so much. Thinking, thinking, thinking. There is societies in the West, maybe in Hong Kong I'm sure there are, maybe in Indonesia, societies for the prevention of cruelty to animals. Societies for the prevention of cruelty to children. And I want to start a society, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Brains. Because you are so cruel to your brain. You never give it a moment's rest. Your poor brain is so abused and so tired. So when you learn how to have some space between the words in Om Mani Padme Hum, you get this wonderful silence. Number one, your brain can rest. You know what happens when your body rests? At night, have a good sleep. You feel fit, healthy, you can walk, you can sit, you feel good. Imagine you could do that to your brain. So after it rested, it feels really clear, powerful, and it can do things. You know, a lot of times when we think a bit this way and that way. It's like being lost in the forest. We never really know the path. We think all over the place. But when you are still, the thought goes in one direction, which means you can think efficiently. You can be innovative. You can find solutions to problems which no one else can see. Why is that? It's because the mind is precise. It's like I was trying to get an example of the talkback show I did some years ago, when a caller from the general public, he was a taxi driver, asked me a question. Now you're on live radio, broadcast all over the city, and you haven't got time to pause or think. They ask you a question, and you've got to give an answer straight away. So it was a moral question. This was a taxi driver. And he said, I have a wife, I'm married, I'm having an affair, but we love each other. Is that okay? How would you answer that? Instead of saying yes or no, my mind, my brain was much sharper that night. So I said, sir, if it was all right, you would not be ringing me up to ask. And straight away he hung up. I got him straight away. Because when your brain is sharp, you can see what's happening. He was feeling guilty for having an affair when his wife never knew about it. And because he was guilty, that's why he was ringing up some expert on the radio. Anonymously, of course. And ringing me up just to see. But on that matter, please, some reasonably wealthy people over here, don't have affairs. Especially you guys. You always think that you won't get caught out. That's men's delusion. They all think they're smart enough and their wife is dumb enough that they can get away with it. And you all know, was it 2-3 years ago, the head of the CIA, the guy who was trained in secrecy, the one who had all the resources to keep things quiet, he got busted by his wife. He was committing adultery. So if the head of the CIA can't keep it secret from the wife, you guys have got no hope. She will find out, and so will he if you girls have an affair. That's why I keep giving this advice to young people these days. Especially if you have daughters looking for a partner in life. Never, ladies, never ever marry a rich guy. Don't do that. Because if you marry a wealthy man, he has enough money to afford a mistress. If you marry a poor guy, he can't afford a mistress. And you all know that mistresses, they don't love the old guys, they love his wallet and bank account. That's what they really love. So if you marry a poor guy, you're absolutely safe. You can come to these retreats as often as you like, knowing he may be back in Jakarta or Hong Kong, and no one will touch him because he can't afford it. You have a very happy marriage. And you guys, the opposite of that, you guys tell your sons, never marry a beautiful girl. If you marry a beautiful girl, when you're coming to Perth on a retreat, she's so beautiful you don't know other guys wanting her. And you will always be jealous. You don't know what she's up to when you're off on some business trip overseas. But if you marry an ugly girl, you can go overseas for weeks at a time, you've got nothing to worry about. She's so ugly, no one wants her. So again, you'll have a worry-free marriage. So that's my advice, coming from the great wisdom of a silent mind. Boys, boys marry ugly girls, girls marry poor men, and you'll be happy ever after. That's why the silly thing, like, was it Cinderella and Prince Charming? You know, this incredibly wealthy prince, a beautiful girl, a recipe for trouble. If I was doing a Walt Disney movie, I'd have this very ugly girl and this incredibly poor guy. And then they would live happily ever after, for sure. Anyway, going back to meditation. So you keep your mind nice and still. And when it becomes still, things happen. You're not thinking. What happens next is you start to get energy coming into your brain, into your mind. This is an important part of meditation to understand. When you are thinking and active, you waste energy. And your mindfulness, your awareness, gets less and less and less. You get dull. The only reason you may be dull and tired in the first days of this retreat is because, you know, you've got to build up your mental energy. It doesn't come back straight away. You've got to wait a while. But if you think, you plan, you do a lot, you're wasting energy. So try and be silent. Try and be peaceful. Don't do so much. Then you will find, because the mind is reasonably still, all the energy which you would have wasted thinking, planning, worrying about things you can't do anything about, all that wasted energy is now preserved. And where does it go? It goes into mindfulness. The mindfulness starts to increase in power. Literally, you begin to wake up. And that's one of the things you will experience on this retreat. Because you hardly do anything in this retreat. No jobs, nothing to do, no shopping, except talking to Bert. Bert, can you get me this? Can you get me that? But you can't do that much. It's only a little bit. That's all right. You got permission for that. So, and it's so, you know, if you want anything, ask for Bert, and she's very kind. And when your mind becomes very still, you literally become more awake, more aware, and you'll find that the awareness and the awakeness starts to happen when the food starts to taste more delicious than usual. When the sky and the grass and the flowers look more beautiful than ever before. When even the sounds, you can hear sounds you never heard before. They were always there, but your mindfulness was too dull to pick them up. When you become still, mindfulness gets energy, and you start to wake up. And indeed, the word Buddha, that comes from an old Pali word, like Sanskrit, bujati, which means to wake up. So instead of saying the enlightened one, it's a much more accurate to say the awakened one. You're awakened to the truth. Your mind is so sharp and powerful, you can see things. You have insight. So in order to increase the power of your mindfulness, we develop stillness. The more still, the more powerful your mindfulness is. And it also explains something in modern life called depression, and even being grumpy. I think I mentioned this on the first morning, that when I gave a seminar in, was it on Friday night? I think it was on Friday night. I certainly mentioned this. I think I mentioned this in passing on Saturday morning, when I gave a seminar to youth in Kuala Lumpur. They said the most troubling emotion was tiredness. And the same with you as well. You are so tired. And people who get very tired, I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally, that's called depression. They're so tired, they've worn out, they've got no energy left. And they go into this very, very dull state. I've never been depressed, surprisingly, but certainly I can understand what it's like. Because when you're really depressed, no food has any taste to it at all. Even the beautiful flowers, they've got no colour, it's like all washed out. Even sounds, you can't really hear them very much at all. The mindfulness is so dull, it's like living in twilight. You can't actually see very clearly. Nothing is bright and colourful. Because I remember, I was born in London. Okay, now, if ever you've been to London, in January or December, January, February, especially January, February, please never go to that place at that time of the year. It is so depressing. Now, the sun only comes up about 10 o'clock or 10:30 in the morning. By 1:30, it's gone down again. It's so grey and dark and depressing. And look, if you ever go to London that time of the year, the skies are always grey. You never see the sun. There's always cloud. When it rains, it doesn't really rain. It's drizzle. How can you be more depressing than drizzle? It doesn't even rain properly. It's like a half rain. And all the buildings, they don't paint the buildings bright colours. They're all grey buildings, grey pavements, grey roads. And people, they don't wear nice clothes. They're all grey overcoats and grey umbrellas and grey trousers. Everything is grey in England in December, January, February. And as I joke, even the tea they drink, oh, grey tea. Everything is grey. And no wonder people get depressed. And it's known in psychology as SAD. They call it SAD, seasonal affective disorder. And the cure is very simple. I was talking to my brother when it was first discovered. The cure is really easy. They take all these depressed people into a brightly lit room. So not like the ordinary dullness of a London, even during the middle of the day, it's really dark. A brightly lit room, and everyone has to wear Hawaiian shirts with loud music. And it's so loud, it's so bright, it's so sort of exciting that starts to get them going again. It starts to stimulate the brain. Because imagine when you're seeing just dullness all the time, and darkness, and there's no taste, there's no colour. That makes anyone depressed. So, when you understand that lack of mental energy is depression, you can understand how it's easy to get out of depression and why meditation, according to the British National Health Service, is a preferred treatment for most depressions. When you're still, energy starts coming up, you avoid a depression. So, I've been a monk for 40 years. Do I look depressed? Do I look like I've got no energy? You're bright and bubbly, because that's what happens when your meditation starts to give you energy into your mindfulness. Not only are you got energy, happiness, but also you can see further. So what happens? You're still. And then the mind starts to wake up. Give it a couple of days. You still haven't really overcome your tiredness yet. I'm not talking about your physical tiredness. You've slept enough to overcome your physical tiredness. I'm talking about your mental tiredness. You've been working, struggling, striving. Wait a little while, and you will find your mind starts to recover. You find your brain can think clearly, and it can see clearly, and you can enjoy the beauty of this natural surroundings. This place here, we chose it carefully for a meditation center. And we designed it carefully. This is not just a mistake, the way this thing has been designed. We make it so it's beautiful surroundings, put a lot of money into the garden, still a lot more needs to be put in there to make it beautiful for you. We get great cooks to try and get you some food, whatever you need. You know, even the forbidden food in the evening, you can get some in there somewhere or other. I'm not going to punish you or do anything for that. If you haven't got any noodles yet, because a lot of people put them in their suitcases and they think I don't know about it. There's some more coming soon. Because it's important you're happy, and you know, especially this weather here. You know, sometimes you can't really take an empty stomach and it's very cold. So a little bit of noodles, something, just nothing indulgent, not a 5-course meal. Well, not 5-course meal. I've been to these places in Hong Kong, 14-course meals. I don't know how you can do that. I once did that. I think that's early on when I went to Hong Kong. They took me to one of these restaurants, and I got to about the 7th course, and that was it. You know, and I've got a big tummy. I don't know how you guys, where you put it, I'm not sure, but 14 courses, that's incredible. But anyway, so a little bit is fine. So by giving you that happiness and that energy, your mind is waking up, and then you start to be able to still the mind even further. The mindfulness, it starts to see all this stuff where you try and control and make things happen. You can start to see that your mindfulness increases. When your mindfulness increases, it's much easier to let go. The old question, people say, yes, I know, to become, get into a nice meditation, to get enlightened, I have to let go. But how do I let go, Ajahn Brahm? I've been trying to let go for years and I still can't let go. How do I do it? You let go a little, only a little, to become more still. When you become still, your mindfulness gets stronger. And as you get stronger mindfulness, you can let go some more. Because the mindfulness can see where you can let go some more. You let go some more, the mindfulness gets even stronger because of more stillness, and you can let go more. So as the mindfulness increases, it gives you the opportunity to let go even more stuff. Gradually, stillness, mindfulness, letting go, stillness, mindfulness, letting go. And with that stillness as well, the great happiness which comes with being free like a bird. Nothing to worry about, nothing to be concerned about, just totally free, just like you were when you were a small girl or small boy. You could play around all day, not worrying about homework, not worrying about relationships, not worrying about money or dinner. Mummy would make that for you in the evening. Totally irresponsible. Now you can get back there again on this retreat. Be irresponsible, just like when you were a child. You can take Teddy. That's one of the other reasons you do teddy bear meditation. It brings back the attitude when you were a small girl or a small boy and had a little teddy. Simple kindness, simple mind, peaceful, irresponsible, free. Not thinking too much, but feeling. So that's why teddy bear meditation is very helpful. So this is bringing up the mindfulness, the awareness, stronger and stronger and stronger. And when the awareness gets very strong, what object do you watch? Yeah, you watch the breath. You know the breath actually comes to you. You don't go searching for it. Because everything else has stopped moving. The body is nice and relaxed, nothing to do there. It's quiet outside, nothing to listen to. Your eyes are closed, nothing to look at. What else is there which is moving except your breathing? Years, and when I first came here to Perth, that there was myself and another monk. His name was Ajahn. He was senior to me. And we'd only been here for about 2 months, and we got an invitation that someone had imported the first sensory deprivation chamber, into Perth. It was this like box, and in it was water, salt water. You just float in it, and it was at the body temperature. It was soundproof, and so people would go into these sensory deprivation chambers to meditate, because there was no pressure on any part of your body. You were just floating in warm salt water, and it was totally silent. You couldn't hear any sound. Even just that aircraft overhead, you wouldn't hear it. And just, everything, all the senses could be subdued, so you could rest and relax. It was supposed to be New Age therapy in the sensory deprivation chamber. And they invited the monks to try it out. And I thought, wow, this would be very good. Deep meditation guaranteed. No aches in the body, no sort of hot, cold. It'd be just perfect, and no sounds disturbing you. But I was number 2 monk, so the first monk had to go in there first. So he went there one day, and the next day was supposed to be my turn, but I never got a try, because that night someone actually showed us the advertisement in the newspaper. Sensory deprivation chambers as used by Buddhist monks. He just exploited us. Get one of the monks to go in there so he could put it on his advertisement as used by senior Buddhist monks. And I was really disappointed because I didn't have a chance to go in there. But when I asked him what it was like in there, he said it was quiet except for and the thinking going on in the mind. So those are things you can't stop that easily. And apparently these days they use those machines, but they have golf videos or some movie on there to try and stop you thinking, because you can stop all the other senses pretty quickly, but this one in here, the thinking and also the breathing, that's a hard thing to stop. So how do you stop your breathing? Please don't do it by force. Otherwise you'll go out here in a coffin and I'll lose my reputation. So please, carry on breathing. And what happens? You're just watching your breath. That's the only thing left at a certain time in meditation. You're mindful, you're calm, and just the breath coming in, the breath going out. You see many, many people, they go on holiday and they go to the beach. And they sit on the beach, and what do? Just watching the waves come in, watching the waves go out. That's what monks do at the beach, watching the waves go in, watching the waves go out. What the guys do, watching the beautiful beach babes go past, watching them come back again. That's what you guys do, watching the girls. And what do you girls do? Watch the buff surfer guys go in. No. Just by yourself, a nice quiet beach, watch the waves come in, the waves go out. Now that's very peaceful. And that's exactly what you're doing in meditation. The breath, you can't really change it or stop it no more. You can control the waves on the ocean. You just watch them come in and watch them go out. And there is a reason why it's very calming for you. One of those reasons, I reckon, psychology, is that when you are very, very, very young, even in your mother's tummy, where people actually are mindful, they are aware, when they haven't been born yet, that was one of the first rhythms you could notice. Imagine your little fetus in your mother's tummy, as it goes up and goes down. You recognize that, and for the first weeks of your life, breastfeeding on your mother's chest, that is a rhythm which you have first experienced in the earliest part of this life. And it's a very reassuring, safe, comfortable rhythm, which is one of the reasons when you focus on the breath, it is quite easy to focus on. You do feel safe, comfortable, reassured. So once you start to focus on the breath, you focus on the breath going in, breath going out, it's so nice and easy. If you still have some thinking going on because you haven't quieted your mind enough yet, that's when you can say a little word as you breathe in, a little word as you breathe out. And the one which I have used, which seems to be most successful in Australia, you may try something else, is as you breathe in, you say the word to yourself, peace. You breathe in peace, and you imagine. You don't just say the word. Imagine this thing called peace, whatever you imagine it to be. You're bringing it into your body and mind with every in-breath. Breathe in peace. What's that in Bahasa, peace? Damai. Breathing in, damai. And breathe out, let go. What is let go? Lepas. Lepas. Breathing, damai. Lepas. Damai. Oh, yeah. Lepas. So anything you want to get rid of, any sickness, tiredness, any bad memories, any fears for the future, as you breathe out, lepas. All the anxiety for the future, all those bad things which happened to you, lepas. And instead, damai. All the peace. There's a lot of peace in Jhana Grove. There's enough for every one of you. Just drink it in, breathe it in. Peace, silence, love, whatever you want to breathe in. And breathe out, lepas. But just saying it is not enough. You've got to imagine it. You've got to give those words meaning. So it is real peace you're breathing in. And lepas, which is you're breathing out. And if ever you get really sick, you may have like a cancer or something, breathe out the tumour. Feel it going out. Breathing in like health and energy. Breathing out the cancer. Breathing in the beautiful peace and energy and health. You know, it really works. But you've got to keep focusing on it and doing it again and again. And not just saying the word, feel the word. Give it emotional power, and then it works. But the only way you can do that is you've got to get enough mindfulness, first of all, by being still long enough. And as you're doing that, you do actually get even more still. You're not doing that much. And the energy gets bigger and bigger. And you really get mindful now. And when you really get aware, it gets lots of energy. You can go walking meditation. It's amazing how much you can feel in your feet as you're walking. There's heaps of things going on there. And then you look at the floor in front of you. Wow, it's incredible. That's just bamboo wood. There's so many different colors just in one tiny piece of bamboo. And you can look at it for hours, literally, because I've done that before. In the monastery I trained in Thailand, it had a concrete floor. Did you ever think concrete could be beautiful? I was doing walking meditation during the rainy season, walking backwards and forwards, 2 meters in front, looking at the concrete floor. As I went to the end, turned around, came back again, and then my mind suddenly became really peaceful and very powerful. The mindfulness was getting really strong. And I looked at that floor. Wow! It was amazing, the different shades of grey. There's not just 1,000 different shades of grey. And you looked upon that, and maybe because it was done by the villagers, not by professionals, it's all bumpy all over the place. It was like this mountainscape, like these rolling hills of concrete, and beautiful valleys and peaks and different colours of greys. And wow, that was so beautiful. I looked upon it for about 25 minutes, just staring at it. And I wanted to cut it out and put it on the wall or send it to an art gallery somewhere. This was so amazing. That even a lump of concrete starts to look beautiful. You look at a brick, it's amazing just how much different contours and detail are in that brick. When that starts to happen, it's a sign your mindfulness is now really strong. And there's so many beautiful things to see in this monastery. Okay, I was trying to resist this story, which I tell every time, but I can't resist it. You know what's coming, don't you? A golden oldie. Because here in this Jhana grove, must have been one of the early retreats here, after giving the talk or after doing some meditation, my mind was so peaceful and so powerful. And everything was beautiful. And I had to go to the toilet. Even monks have to go to the toilet, and nuns. I went to the toilet, and after finishing my business in the toilet, I made the mistake of looking in the toilet bowl. Wow! Never in my whole life have I seen such a beautiful piece of shit. It's sculptured. It's not just, what is the balls stuck together? And just the way they're put together, it was like something done by Michelangelo. And the browns, they were rich. Now, not just washed out pastel, they were beautiful brown coloured pieces. And it always happens, there's always a tiny bit of mucus on there which makes it glisten like a diamond when it's in contact with the water. It was just sparkling shit in the bowl. And then when I get to the smell, the aroma, it's a rich aroma, it's full. It's not some sort of half-baked sort of pastel, just weak aroma. It's really rich and powerful. Wow, that was amazing. Now, if you can do that when you're in the toilet, that's a sign your mindfulness is getting strong. So I expect a few people to go to the toilet and hearing people in the cubicle going, wow, look at that, that's amazing, whoa! That's a true story, it happens. And why does that happen? The last part of that story is perhaps one of the most important parts. I had to let it go. And it's only because, you've been trained as a monk. If I hadn't been trained as a monk, I'd have probably picked it up and shown it to somebody. I could let it go, press the button. Such a hard thing to do, to let a thing of beauty disappear like that. But because I've been trained in renunciation for so many years, I could do it. So please, if it is very beautiful, please don't take it out and show it to me. Please renounce, let it go. But that's a side of mind. So if that is how you can look at something like that, imagine you go outside and look at the flowers, or look at the forest, or look at the sunset, or look at the stars at night. They are incredible when you have strong mindfulness. And the beauty up there just blows you away. Wow. Even the food just tastes incredibly delicious. Wow. This is a sign your mindfulness is increasing. And you can watch the breath, and you all know that my teaching of the delightful breath, the beautiful breath. Why is it delightful? Why is it beautiful? Because your mindfulness is strong enough now. Whatever you watch is so delightful and beautiful. So you watch the breath, breath going in. Breath going out. Yeah. I can get into this. Breath going out. Breath going in. Breath. You really get happy. And that is no joke, okay? All these things are serious, actually happen. When you start to get to the delightful breath, then you're away. You just love meditating. In your room here, you can't get enough. You get into your seat quick, and, yeah, another hour of this. Yeah, come on. Give me 2 hours. That is a sign your mindfulness is increasing. Simply because you're still. You're not doing so much. You're not talking so much. You're not thinking so much. You're putting spaces between the thoughts. The Om, Mani. You're listening rather than talking so much. Getting in data rather than just trying to analyze it. You're becoming still, calming down. And then you find this place really is beautiful when you're still. When you're busy doing stuff, you can't see any beauty in this place at all. You can't even see any beauty in yourself when you're rushing around. But when you're still, everything Even the content of a toilet bowl is wow. Imagine looking at yourself when you're still. Wow. This is the joy of meditation. Are you interested? Are you going to meditate now? Maybe this afternoon. Okay, very good. So now we're going to have some interviews. For those who put down the names for interviews, 10 minutes each. Those of you who aren't going for an interview, you can get up and do a little bit of stretching, go to the toilet and come back here again. It's nice and warm and cozy, and see if you can bliss out. Even if you're not going to be doing meditation in here, at least do the